A social, economic, and political crisis that began in Venezuela during the presidency of Hugo Chavez has continued into the presidency of Nicolas Maduro. It is marked by hyperinflation, escalating starvation, disease, crime, and mortality rates, resulting in massive emigration from the country. The situation is the worst economic crisis in Venezuela's history and the worst facing a country that hasn't experienced war since the mid-20th century. In comparison to historical crises, it is more severe than that of the United States in the Great Depression. By 2017, hunger had escalated to the point where almost 75% of Venezuela's population had lost an average of over 19 pounds in weight, and more than half of those people didn't have enough income to meet their basic food needs. Unfortunately, food is not the only lacking source in Venezuela today. Numerous commodities that are deemed essential to specifically women are extremely scarce, including tampons and sanitary pads. Other contraceptives such as birth control pills and condoms are very limited across the country. Due to a lack of contraceptives, Venezuela is now the country with the highest rate of teen pregnancy and earliest start of sexual activity in South America. Because of this, couples had to have made drastic changes to their sex lives to avoid pregnancy, such as using calendar-based methods and buying birth control pills off the black market. Because of the risk of the contraceptives off the black market, some young Venezuelan women, even as young as 15, have chosen an extreme method of avoiding pregnancy: sterilization.
Religion has played a large role in the development of Venezuela as a whole. Starting off with religion, around 71% of the population in Venezuela practices Roman Catholicism, a branch of Christianity. Roman Catholicism in Venezuela comes from the colonization of Venezuela by the Spaniards from 1522 to 1811. This could be considered a great example of relocation to fusion, as Spaniard missionaries came to Venezuela and proselytized many individuals. With the second most practicers in Venezuela, 17% of the population are Protestant Christians, a denomination of the Christian religion. In Venezuela, Protestant Christians stem from the evangelicals who converted from the Catholic religion and had new views on religion. This would be an example of stimulus diffusion. Around the globe, we see Roman Catholicism practiced in high concentration in the region of Latin America, the continent of Africa, and the heart of its religion, Europe. We see high numbers of Protestant Christians in the areas of Southern Africa, Asia, and Southern America. Sacred sites in Venezuela include Caracas Cathedral, Cathedral Metropolitan, Basilica Nuestra, and St. Martin's Church. All of these sites are places to practice branches or denominations of the Christian religion. In Venezuela, religion is a centripetal force, something that brings the country together as a whole. Culture has led to the Venezuelan oil crisis because of the fact that Venezuela is so dependent on their oil. An example of this for culture could be native festivities that take place in their country. Other nations that are involved in this crisis are every nation that have a want and need for oil in their country. However, major concerns and initiatives come from Canada, China, and a coalition of Latin America countries. As a result of this crisis, this has led to an unnecessary strain on women to produce children in a stage 3 country that was previously headed in the right direction. The few have a large part of the wealth in Venezuela, and everyone else, minority or not, is put in a not very good situation. Venezuela's pop culture has a lot to do with their food and music, and with their music ranging from origination from Africa, Native, Indigenous, Spanish, and even America and Caribbean people. They have many types of music, from joropo to pop culture, with their pop culture having very vibrant and quick beats. Popular food in Venezuela includes arepas, a savory, meaty snack, and perico, a special type of egg mixed with tomato.
The lack of oil has sparked violent crimes that are common at fueling stations and have resulted in the deaths of multiple people. It has also prevented citizens from going to work, from farmers delivering their produce into the cities, and leads to the hoarding of fuel in homes, regardless of the danger. This has also been the tipping point in causing a humanitarian crisis, where around 90% of Venezuelans are living in poverty. The president, Nicolas Maduro, has raised the minimum wage by about 3,000%, and has devalued the bolivar by more than 90% in an effort to curb inflation, but he has failed to address the actual problems that are causing the inflation. He explained that his plan aimed to balance the shortfall of the country's income through increasing taxes and prices of gasoline. A big issue that the U.S. is facing is the amount of oil that they can buy from Venezuela. This could potentially hurt the economy and consumers in America because prices would be higher because refiners would have to resort to buying oil from more expensive sources. It is important that the U.S. soon strengthens their humanitarian assistance with Venezuela and upholds the sanctions against Maduro. About 2/3 of Venezuela's population is mestizo, which consists of a mix of European and Indian ancestry. About 1/5 are of European lineage, about 1/10 are of mainly African ancestry, and the native Indian population is extremely small. There has been a history of racism, including the hate that the previous president, Hugo Chavez, received for his Afro-Indigenous heritage. Venezuela also usually embraces Western European standards of beauty, for example, in the beauty pageants where they tend to favor those of European heritage and upper socioeconomic levels within the country. There are about 40 languages that are spoken in Venezuela, with Spanish being the official language, although English is considered the lingua franca because it is mostly used for business communication. Indigenous languages mostly descend from the language families of Arawak, Caribbean, and Yanomami.